Hi Bijay. Hi Utsab. I'm Aalok from Indian now. Uh, this Technicolor Lovers is your latest release, right? Uh, can you tell me a bit about it?
Yeah, sure. So, Technicolor Lovers is basically the first book from my newly founded comic book label called Black Sheep. So, Black Sheep is a label that I founded with artist Tadam Gyaru. And this is the very first book that's coming out of it. And Utsab was our very first collaborator that we're working together with. So, we partnered with Yali Dream Creations to publish this book. But from production side, it's done by myself, Utsab, and Raviraj Ahuja. In terms of story, basically, Technicolor Lovers is something within the noir occult kind of space. But the story is about a detective who comes to this sort of cursed village to look for his missing daughter. But what ends up happening is he gets caught in this sort of class war between a group of landlords and a group of indigenous or tribal folks. And the interesting thing is, the heart of this conflict is basically a cursed video tape. So the so the truth about his daughter lies on that cursed videotape. So that's basically the gist of what Technicolor Lovers is. And this is just the first part where we introduce the main characters and the world that they inhabit and all of that. The second part, we'll dig more into some of the supporting characters and some of the role that they have to play in shaping the story as a whole.
So how did this book come by? I mean, you have told me about what it is. I don't want any spoilers because I have yet to read the book.
Okay.
So can you tell me how this book came by?
This story has been with me for the last, I think, 10 to 12 years. Also in a different format. Okay. Like, in fact, at that point, the name was Technicolor Lover, like singular, not lovers. And that time it was also about a vigilante auto rickshaw driver. So,
I mean, why not?
yeah, why not? So, but with maturity and with life experience, your things change, right? So obviously, the story also sort of changed. But the gist of it remained. The auto rickshaw driver is still a part of the story, but he's not a vigilante anymore. He's something else. But yeah, so the idea came like 10, 12 years ago, and I kept thinking about it. Lot of influence, a lot of things I read over the last 10, 12 years, including a lot of the true crime content that I consume. I consume a lot of true crime. Okay, things like Auto Shankar, Auto Shankar was somebody who was a serial killer. Auto Shankar, who was somebody who was heavily influenced by films. He said that films made him do this. So that gist of that idea that films made me do this is something that is explored in this. Although this is not a story about Auto Shankar at all, but that thought was interesting and I sort of took that forward. And I sort of spread it in a manner that, okay, what if, this films made me do it is not just applying to one person, but what if an entire village can be affected by a film or a visual? Right? So, yeah, that's basically where it started and how it
Fiction inspires reality, reality inspires fiction.
exactly. Yeah.
So, Utsab, how did you come to do this?
Bijoy approached me. Bijoy approached the idea. I basically participated one of the events like Inktober. It happens in October. No, October. So I posted some of the drawings throughout the month, and from one of them, Bijoy got inspired, and he just directly contacted me for doing something like this. So he messaged me and talked. We talked, and we shared our views about this project. But it evolved through time. I see. So the artwork and even the story itself, it got evolved through time. So it got twisted more. So it's a whole journey. I must say. Also, it's a difficult one, but it's a toiling journey, but it's a great one.
Utsab, who not have seen of the art of Technicolor Lovers who make quite a lot of great use of negative space. Okay, looking at the art, there's so much great use of negative space.
Yeah.
So where does that come from? Are you a person who likes to experiment with art a lot?
Yeah, because I am from a visual art background and I do my artworks using the negative spaces because
negative spaces usually plays with the mind, with the psychosis. So negative space gives kind of value to the artwork and to the story itself. So when Bijoy explained everything with the details, the story will go like this and story will be go like that. So from that point on, I introduced the negative spaces in comics. Right. Because I haven't seen any kind of artworks relating to negative spaces and using negative spaces. So from that point, I think Technicolor Lovers is a different take from art's perspective as well. Of course.
In fact, just to add, right, they say silences speak louder than words. That's exactly so the darkness, right, what you cannot see makes you question, okay, what lies beyond, right? And that's why there's an intrigue that's created when you read a book.
So I prefer Technicolor Lovers. There are two powers. I must. Yes, you have a beauty. This one by me and this one by Joaquin Gonzalez. So if you are looking at the Indian comic book space in general, okay, there's a lot of uh, idea about color that some people are not ready to read. Like we want comics in color. We want comics on glossy pages. This has always been that undercurrent that if something shines, it's great. Yeah. So, but I have seen in international comics and almost everywhere else, whatever is best suited for the content works. So when you talk about this book in particular or the vibe that you are going for in general, yeah, it has something to do with challenging the convention that has existed. Like even today, there'll be a lot of people who will be saying that we don't want the black and white comics. Like if this were in color, there'll be a lot of genuine people will be liking color comics, and there'll be thing if this were in color, you would have loved it more. Right? So, is there anything that consciously went in to challenge conventions?
So 100%, 100%, right? So, maybe I'll start with this, right? Black sheep, right? If you look at our tagline, it's shown very tiny text over here, but it says dare to stray. Okay, so even from a philosophy perspective, we are looking to challenge known conventions. In fact, even picking a story like this is very risky because one, it is extremely rooted. Okay, it has very specific culture-specific nuances. That too to the culture of Kerala and Tamil Nadu, which I do not know if other people from outside these states read it, if they can even relate to it. In fact, if you look at it, even the words, some Malayalam word, we not translated. We put a glossary in the front instead. You have to actually put an effort to understand. So all of these basically come out of conviction that I feel that by doing this, it's going to give you a more immersive experience, right? Even the black and white was
So basically the flavor of the region and what you are going for is preserved.
correct. In fact, even the black and white is a conviction like that, right? That we felt that to tell a story of this nature, where characters at the beginning, they start off as black and white, right? But as the story moves on, and especially when it goes into part 2 and part 3, they sort of collide and fall into the gray area, right? So to tell that, right, black and white was the most perfect media. And of course, it's a noir, right? So no other way of saying, I mean, I don't think it's a better way of saying
it. Wouldn't have worked in as well as it did in other media. Okay. Can you guys tell me a bit more about yourselves? Because
there's this quote that all writers are failed comic book artists. I'm here to say that that's actually true. So I am a failed comic book artist in the sense that I used to draw quite heavily. In fact, I have drawn a full comic book. Please don't look for it. But the point was, I realized that to become, it was decent. Okay, not Utsab decent. I'm saying like there's a very big difference in levels, right? But the point was that, I realized that to become a great artist, you need to be practicing like 12, 13 hours a day. But then me, with my day job and all, I did not have time. So then I started thinking of, okay, are there other ways, alternatives for me? So what I realized is my passion was not necessarily art. Art was a medium, but my passion was storytelling. So I tried to switch from drawing to writing. It was a very slow process. It took like 10 plus whatever years, right? But then I tried, right? And I'm grateful to the people who gave me an opportunity, like Aswin Srivatsangam from Yali Eating Creations, Vivek Goel from Holy Cow. These guys actually trusted me with like these very complex, large projects, which, I got the opportunity to write and I was able to hone my skills. And because of that, I am here. So that's my journey in short. But I am not a full-time writer. I have a day job as well. So I try to balance the responsibility of comic book writing as seriously as I can with my day job. So yeah, that's it about me.
Utsab sir? I am from a visual art background. I have done my bachelor's in painting from Kolkata's Government College of Art and Craft. I see. And master's from Shantiniketan in painting. So after that, I started my art practice through new media art, say video art, music, sounds. So after that, I came to installation art. And after that, Bijoy took me to the comics world, comics industry. Okay, so this is your essentially your first comic book, first commercial project, I must say. Okay. I have other solo projects, solo comic books, but this hasn't been printed yet. Right. So I have lots of things in mini comics, zines. Right. There are lots of things. Experimental comic books, I must say. So guys, when is volume 2 coming out?
Very good question. That's something we've been discussing also over the last few weeks, months. So the writing has already started, and Utsav is going to be picking up artwork duties, I think, around June, July. So this time the advantage is in terms of tone and all of that, it's already set from the first book, right? So that adjustment time will not be there.
Of course.
So we are hoping it can be done faster. I shouldn't say a number, I want to say a year, but maybe you never know, right? So fingers crossed, hopefully, the book is out in a year. Let's see.
Looking at the looking at the experimental nature of the book and the quality of the book and the storytelling, I can see a lot of effort has really gone into producing this book. And sometimes we read this book in an hour, so we never think about the months or even years of effort that have gone into the creation of this book. So as artists, we have to be a patient lot. As writers, we have to be a patient lot. But as audiences, sometimes people get impatient. So, I just ask this out of personal curiosity because I'll be reading this.
No, totally understandable. I mean, in fact, just to add to that, right? After a year, when you pick up part 2, you won't even remember what happened in part 1. Right. So it's a genuine pain point. But the good thing is in part 2, we are actually trying something different to address this exact problem. That we are thinking of giving a recap, but not in a traditional manner. Traditionally, you write like one paragraph of text, right? Yeah, you say something like that. But no, we're trying to do that in the artwork itself. So it's going to be integrated into the panels, into the pages, right? So that you get a gist of book 1 before the book 2 story starts. So
The spoilers.
how we get. Sorry, too excited.
Any other projects in the pipeline? I have with Alpha 2 projects. One is Hapshi and one is an anthology project called Manasa. So I have a story written by Sahil S. Sharma, and another one is Hapshi, also written by Sahil. So these 2 projects are lining up.
I'm working on this book called Drup, the Last Dragon, which in fact you will see here in the last page. So this is a book I'm working on with Tadam. Yeah, it's going to be like a martial arts coming of age story of sorts. So that's something we're actively working on. Apart from that, I'm also working on Weapons of Mass Extinction for Holy Cow. So Womb 2 just released. Womb 3 is also coming very soon. 4 is going to be like a massive company-wide crossover. Also very exciting. With Yali, of course, Codename Alpha 3, the writing is in progress. But I don't know when it's going to come out, but whenever it does.
Perfect. It was so stellar speaking to you. Now I think I'll be reading this book a little differently now.
That's good, right?
And I'll share feedback once I'm done with this.
Absolutely.
And even before reading the book, I can tell you that I'm gonna be waiting for volume 2 and volume 3 whenever it comes out. But guys, take your time. This is a stellar work. I mean, it takes quite a lot of time and effort to do this. I'll be really happy if it continues.